everybody. How are you? It's been a few days off for me. Gonna get ready for my videos here while everybody jumps on. I got banned. Why? Because I shared a scientific report. Yes. A report that said that there is a scourge on society, on our physical and mental health. Yeah, I shared that and off for 3 days. I have to say it was a nice little vacation from Facebook social media because again, if I can't even share a scientific report, and it's not like I wrote anything either. What I did was I quoted the conclusion of the study and that was enough to bye-bye. I'm putting a lot of effort into Telegram at Unmask the Fear if you're not on board over there. Love to see you. Some good conversation building too. Got a nice little group. It's a small one on the side. So if you want to join that, you can and get into the conversation. Again, I'm really hitting a lot more international and how all of this ties in because the commonality for all of it, for me, is UN Agenda 2030. That's the glue, the legitimacy. And I'm finding all the players. And again, trying to attack this global hijacking. And who are the players invested in keeping us locked down? It's a task. Lots of interesting, again, I'm not Miss Economics, so I'm hitting a lot of territory that I didn't, really have a grasp on to start. So it takes me a little longer to process it. In any case, today I am going to take you this week because it's going to be really 3 parts to this, or we'll be here all night. I don't want to monopolize your time that much, but I want to take you back to Vanguard. And I want to show you a couple little videos that I've come across. Funny enough, I found a second one and it had 3 of the videos I had found in it, which is great. And so this kind of helps us condense this material. Again, these are 2 names we need to familiarize ourselves with because they're pretty much running the world, and that's Blackrock and Vanguard. Yeah. And I'm finding all sorts of clues how this is going down. And of course, in the financial world, this is really quite well known. But to the truther world and us in lockdown, we need to understand that unfortunately, many people are invested in their own demise right now. And this is scary stuff. In any case, I'm going to flip you over here just to take a look at Holdings channel. We're just going to check out Vanguard. So here we are. Now, of course, all stocks held by Vanguard Group. And if you've got Apple, always the same players, even with Blackrock. And I'll show you that again. Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Facebook, Tesla, Alphabet, which is Google, Johnson & Johnson, the vaccine, Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett. Of course, he's always a player, this man. And again, a lot of people think he's the sidekick of Bill, but I really believe he's the mentor of it all. You see, we're in somewhat an insurance scheme. And this is what I'm breaking down. And he's the insurance man of the world. So, of course, we've got Visa, JP Morgan Chase, Procter & Gamble, United Health Group, Walt Disney, MasterCard, Nvidia, Home Depot, PayPal, Comcast, Verizon, Adobe, Walmart, Bank of America Corp, PepsiCo, Netflix, Coca-Cola. See, they own even all the competition. Merck & Co., Intel Corp, Pfizer, Abbott Labs, AT&T, Qualcomm, Salesforce.com, Inc., AbbVie Inc., don't know that one, Cisco, Broadcom, Nike, Alibaba. You just keep going on this list. McDonald's, Costco, Exxon, Nextera, Chevron. You see, look at, well, you can't see on the side, but listen, we could go on here for like hours I can imagine. Everything. It's quite diabolical. Now, I thought I would just give you a little history on Vanguard Group quickly, and then we're going to flip to another little film. The Vanguard Group, Inc. is an American registered investment advisor based in Malvern, Pennsylvania, with about $6.2 trillion in global assets under management as of January 31st, 2020. Now, the thing is about that, I think they're at 7.4 billion right now, just a few months later. I think I talked about that the other day. It is the largest provider of mutual funds and the second largest provider of exchange-traded funds in the world after BlackRock's iShares. In addition to mutual funds and ETFs, Vanguard offers brokerage services, variable and fixed annuities, educational account services, financial planning, asset management, and trust services. Several mutual funds managed by Vanguard are ranked at the top of the U.S. mutual funds by assets under management. Along with BlackRock and State Street, Vanguard is considered one of the big three index funds that dominate corporate America. And they dominate. So I'm going to flip you back and we're just going to watch a little flick about charts that count. You'll see that this counts.
In recent years, 3 companies have amassed so many assets in the public markets that they've come to eclipse all other investors in terms of size and market power. So here's the deal. People are really bad at picking which stocks are going to succeed and which stocks are going to fail. You may have heard the example that a blindfolded monkey throwing darts at a stock list does better than a professional. Well, in a lot of cases, that's actually true. So a man named Jack Bogle invented something called the index fund. And the index fund, basically, instead of choosing which stocks you think are going to succeed and which are going to fail, you just take a basket of stocks and you track it. So the S&P 500, for example, is a basket of stocks. It's the 500 largest companies in the US, and it's weighted by their size. So this is often referred to as passive investing because you're not sitting around researching which companies are going to do well this year, which ones are going to do poorly. You're not trading in and out of those. You're just putting your money in an index fund and letting it do its thing. Now, let's switch to something else. Perhaps you've heard of a monopoly. Perhaps you've also heard of an oligopoly. An oligopoly is essentially the same thing as a monopoly. In a monopoly, there is one company providing all the goods and services in a particular market. In an oligopoly, there's just a small handful of companies providing all the goods or services in a single market. So one example of this is phone services in the US, which you're basically limited to AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, or Sprint if you want phone services in the United States. So that is an oligopoly. Well, in the world of index investing, we have what's emerging to be a bit of an oligopoly as well. The 3 companies that comprise it are Vanguard, that one that was started by Jack Bogle. By the way, that's the largest provider of mutual funds in the world. You also have BlackRock, and you also have State Street. Now, this chart, which is produced from research by Backus, Sinkinson, and Conlin, shows the ownership of an average company, the average ownership of a typical company by these 3 firms. So I put the percent here to remind you that Vanguard, if you can see it in 2017, was approaching average ownership of 9% of a typical company. Now, 9% may seem on its face like a small number, but think about this. If you combine these 3 companies, they would be the single largest shareholder of 9 out of every 10 public companies. That is just massive power, and you can see it's been increasing in the last 2 decades. So shortly before his death, Jack Bogle, the inventor of index funds, he even admitted that there is a bit of concern if these 3 firms continue this path of market dominance.
What'd you think of that? Let's flip this around. Okay, getting ready for the next one.
There's a good chance you've never heard of Blackrock. Founded in 1988.
Whoops, sorry guys.
Just to make you think.
Technical difficulties. In any case, as you can see, we've got an oligopoly forming, not just a monopoly here. And this group is actually going to be the facilitators of these sustainable goals. This is the club. This is how they gathered all of this support, because it's a non-negotiable with Blackrock for the most part. And of course, all of these companies are invested in this agenda. And this is how they got her done. Now let's flip back over and we're going to listen to the crypto guy.
Welcome to the Crypto Teacher. And guys, you know I come back with that second video just to make you think. And we know the banks control everything. What I teach you is the fact is that the Fed, of course, has booked everything. Just printing money bought everything, but they have to funnel the money through other banks. So we have Blackrock, we have Vanguard, we have Blackstone, and they just about own every single asset now due to the C word. They just about own everything. And like the gentleman explains in this first video I'm going to show you, is that a lot of times they go through foundations, nonprofits. And if you look at crypto, you see the same thing. Foundations, nonprofits, when they have already hundreds of millions of dollars. But y'all enjoy the video.
Welcome back to Squawkbox. Blackrock shaking up the business world with that decision earlier this week to make sustainability the focus of its investment strategy. I spoke with Larry Fink about why, as the world's largest asset manager, he decided to make what he's calling a fundamental shift.
We believe a portfolio that focuses on sustainability and climate change will be a portfolio that outperforms. So the main component of the letter is saying this is going to be a great investment over the next 10 years.
Joining us right now is Hal Lambert. He's the founder and CEO of Point Bridge Capital, and Ken Taubes, he's the chief investment officer of Amundi Pioneer Investment Management, one of the first movers on the ESG investment criteria. Hal, I want to start with you. You think that Larry Fink is making the wrong decision here?
Well, what the American people need to understand is that there's been a war going on against American companies for at least the past 20 years. It started with a small group of left-wing agitators. It's mushroomed into hundreds of 501c3 companies funded by the usual sources that have gone after the boards of these companies to try to affect policy changes that they can't get passed legislatively through Congress or through state legislators that conform to their view of the world. And let me tell you, they're winning. There's only a couple of groups on the right that are pushing back on this. So while the rest of America's gone to work every day trying to pay their bills, companies have adopted new policies, these social responsibility policies, and now they're using those policies to implement things like defunding, Congress people that don't agree with those positions, trade organizations that don't agree with the positions. And let me tell you, these left-wing groups they don't care at all about the profitability of these companies. They only care about what's happening in their social responsibility world. So yes, I think Larry Fink is making a mistake. If you look at, what he said in your interview, Andrew, there were two big red flags in that interview. The first was, he said that, hey, when he was writing this new letter on his social responsibility compact and sustainability that he's doing with his investments on the firm level, he was very emotional as he wrote it. Why do you want an investment manager who's emotional about the investment decisions he's making? The second red flag on this was that you asked him, and this is the biggest one, you asked him about ERISA's mandate that you have to focus on the profitability of creating the highest investment returns for your investors. And he said, yes, he knows about that. He wishes he could change it. So he actually said he wishes he could change that mandate that you have to focus on creating the highest returns for your investors. Those are really troubling signs from a company that's now managing trillions of dollars for investors.
That's pretty big, isn't it? Managing trillions for investors. And profitability isn't the number one now. Sustainability is. Agenda 2030 is. Global governance is. That's the standard now. And this, again, this is what makes us global. And again, all of these companies are reinvested in each other. Vanguard, Blackrock running most of the show. State Street's in there. Now let me flip over. I've got some gals here with a good chat. 541. Here we go.
Where are they now in terms of assets?
So BlackRock is currently on almost 6 trillion, and Vanguard we're looking at about 4.7 trillion at the moment. But that is going to rapidly grow. Looking at the average growth rates over the last 5 years, we could be seeing Vanguard at more than 10 trillion by 2023, and BlackRock hitting that mark a couple of years later at 2025.
It is Titan versus Titan. BlackRock and Blackstone could soon be in a battle for the same business. The companies are said to be diversifying their investments, touching on what one another does best. Bloomberg Bureau Chief Jason Kelly wrote the story in this month's Bloomberg Markets magazine, focusing on rivalries. Jason, welcome. So take us back to the history of the two Blacks.
So the history of these two firms is that back in the late 80s, when Blackstone was first getting started, Steve Schwarzman met a guy named Larry Fink, who was a very successful mortgage trader at First Boston. Fink left his job there. Schwarzman said, come work with me. They made beautiful music together for a few years. Then they had what each has described as a fairly bitter corporate divorce. And BlackRock and Larry Fink went on its way, and over the subsequent 20 years or so, these firms really existed in parallel and became the dominant firms in their respective industries.
But respective industries, it wasn't like they were doing the same thing. Blackstone's competition was KKR, BlackRock's competition is Fidelity.
That's exactly right. And when we were thinking about this rivalry issue and sort of what we could say that was new and different, we did think about Blackstone versus KKR or KKR versus Carlyle or something like that. The interesting thing in private equity, as both of you know, is that Blackstone has really put a lot of distance between them and their traditional, as it were, alternative rivals. What has happened is that as they've gotten bigger and bigger, they're looking at new pools of money, especially retail investors.
Now, you look at this chart here, and you can see that BlackRock, as far as total assets under management, just destroys Blackstone.
It's not even close.
Yeah, 4.8 trillion to 310 billion. But something you pointed out to us, which is not on this chart, is that Blackstone actually makes more money in profit.
That's exactly right. So on the same basis, about $1 billion more per year. And so when you look at how investors are valuing this, you saw that huge difference in terms of total assets under management. But when you look at market cap, they're only about $10 or $11 billion apart. So these are firms that actually are competing not just for some money from institutional and retail investors, but even in the public sphere as well, as companies as investors try to assess who they're going to invest in.
Well, and before
Okay. So my point with all this, more than anything, is to introduce you to, I've never even said these words before, but oligopoly. Oligopoly. Yes, that's what we have here. Now, again, they used to have diverse interests, all of these firms, and have their own spot, their sectors that they invested in. But that's not the truth anymore. They're working together. And again, supporting the very same businesses that support UN Agenda 2030 and the sustainability goals. If they don't support it, they won't exist. And that's just the way it is, because they're calling the shots. BlackRock, Vanguard, for the most part, a lot. They control a lot. Now, as I was looking up Vanguard and doing some research, I came across Vanguardism. And I thought this was really interesting because the name apparently was derived from a ship and all of this, and I don't buy it at all because this sounds more accurate. In the context, this is Vanguardism, by the way. In the context of the theory of Leninist revolutionary struggle, Vanguardism is a strategy where the most class-conscious and politically advanced sections of the proletariat or working class, described as the revolutionary vanguard, form organizations in order to draw larger sections of the working class towards revolutionary politics and serve as manifestations of proletarian political power against the bourgeois. And of course, we can see the infusion of these principles. And again, UN Agenda 2030 cannot exist in a democracy. I said that last year in my videos around this time, I think even back a year and a bit ago. It can't. Impossible. Impossible. No. It needs, again, the working class, the proletariat. Vladimir Lenin popularized political vanguardism as conceptualized by Karl Kautsky, detailing his thoughts in one of his earlier works, What is to be Done. Lenin argued that Marxism's complexity and the hostility of the establishment, the autocratic, semi-feudal state of Imperial Russia, required a close-knit group of individuals pulled from the working class vanguard to safeguard the revolutionary ideology within the particular circumstances presented by the Tsarist regime at the time. While Lenin wished for a revolutionary organization akin to the contemporary Social Democrat Party of Germany, which was open to the public and more democratic in organization, the Russian autocracy prevented this. So I'm going to come down to a political party because, see, Blackrock and Vanguard are acting as BlackRock's acting as a branch of government because they're advising government. A Vanguard party is a political party at the fore of a mass action political movement and of a revolution. In the praxis of political science, the concept of the Vanguard Party, composed of professional revolutionaries, was first affected by the Bolshevik Party in the Russian Revolution of 1917. Lenin, the first leader of the Bolsheviks, coined the term Vanguard Party and argued that such a party was necessary in order to provide the practical and political leadership that would impel the proletariat to achieve a communist revolution. Hence, as a political science concept and term, Vanguard Party most often is associated with Leninism. However, similar concepts under different names are also present in revolutionary ideologies. You see, Agenda 2030 is a revolutionary ideology. It is. And this is what we're missing here. It is an absolute shift, reset to everything we know. How we eat. How long our showers take. Like the environmentalism that we were talking about 15 years ago. Well, a lot of people did it, but they weren't waiting for the masses. They're literally doing it, and it's happening, through these common companies and this literal brigade of powers and wealth. Now, I wanted to take you to, where was it? Let's go to this one, and then I'm going to take you on another little journey.
Moves on. Saudi Arabia is buying as much of the world as it can while the world is cheap. They're reportedly buying $1 billion worth of European oil companies. They're buying a large share of the UK's Shell Oil, France's Total Oil, Norway's Equinor, Italy's Eni. They're also buying Uber, Lucid Electric Car Company, and it's also just pumped $500 million into something called Live Nation, a company that puts on events and concerts and stuff. Oh, and they're also buying part of Carnival Cruise Company. Wow. Joining us now to discuss why Saudi Arabia has decided to invest so aggressively. What's behind all of this? George George Galloway. That's quite a shopping list, George. It is. I mean, these are brave investments, Rick. I'm not sure I would have advised all of them. And you missed one. They're buying Newcastle United, Premier League football team in England, although it's causing quite a bit of a stir, as you can imagine. People didn't like the guy that owns it at the moment, but the idea of the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia with his checkered record is not welcome to everyone.
It didn't happen.
These are great investments. I'm not sure I will ever get on a cruise ship. I never have actually, but I certainly won't in the era of this virus. I'm not sure that I'll ever be in a big crowd again, and so I'm not sure I'll be buying any of their tickets from Ticketmaster. The Uber, well, I don't want to put too fine a point on it, but Uber is banned in London because of the bad behaviour of the company and many of its workforce. You'll get my point. These are all risky investments. On the other hand, the price is on the floor, and what the Saudis are trying to do is diversify their sovereign wealth fund, £300 billion, so $400 billion sovereign wealth fund. They've got to put it somewhere, and they've decided to put it in these places where the price was in the basement, in the hope that it can only go up.
I was particularly keen when I read that they were buying electric car companies. I think the company is called Lucid. Hey, are they trying to kill the competition?
Scooping the competition.
Well, actually, they've also bought, as you just adumbrated there, a lot of oil companies. Yeah, at a time when the oil price is on the floor. So it's a bit like a guy in the casino. You usually think he's nuts when he puts his chips on practically every box, as you call them, on the roulette table. Right. You're bound to win something, but you put so much on so many that you probably are going to lose overall. It's
I don't think so, because I think they're on the inside. They are. The Saudis are part of the club, part of the Agenda 2030 club. In fact, a developing nation, as it's called. Yet they're going to build this first futuristic city, Neom. They have billions and billions. And as you can see, they have 100%, they're investing in our economies. Now, I found some interesting footage of Prince, what's his name again? This is what I wrote on Facebook. One nation that's cleverly avoiding detection in this global hijacking is Saudi Arabia. If you've been wondering why I've been so quiet, oh yes, I've been trying to figure this out. This is from a Bloomberg interview with Kingdom Holding Chairman Prince Al-Walid bin Talal. This interview was all about his time in detention at the Ritz-Carlton when his cousin, bin Salman, he detained many members of the royal family under charges of corruption. Now, what I like about this is because I just pick up little things in conversations, and I'm going to let you do that.
The Ritz-Carlton. What was it like inside? Well, for you, yeah, it was a well-built hotel, obviously, and it was an opportunity for me really to compare the service inside, the room service, the laundry, the operator, the phone operator service, and etc. And compare it with our brand Four Seasons, because they are our direct competitor. Frankly speaking, I say to my friend Bill Gates and Cascade, who are 50% ownership of Four Seasons, say, don't worry. No one competes with us. Ritz-Carlton is a good hotel, but they are no Four Seasons at all. So really,
okay, so yes, like I come across the prince in all sorts of talks, talking about his relationship with Bill Gates.
There were never any charges. Were you ever accused of anything? There was not. No. Look, I cannot dwell into what happened, but there is no charges for sure, because I have fiduciary responsibility to my shareholders in Kingdom Holding, to my friends in Saudi Arabia, and to the world community, and to the international community, the banking industry, to the business community in the world, to the Buffetts of the world, to the Gates of the world, to the blank funds of the world, to the Roberts of the world, etc. Because, we have international investments all over the place. So it's very important to say that there was zero accusation.
Okay, so you're hearing this. Again, the prince here, very invested with Bill Gates. And guess where else I found him? On the Giving Pledge. And that is Gates. And Bill Gates gets all the credit for it, but apparently it's Warren Buffett who's the big promoter of it. And that is the fund for all billionaires, or any billionaires who want to join and give away a lot of their wealth. Now, I'm going to take you over to the Giving Pledge. Oh, you know what? I have one more of the prints here because it's a good one, darn it. Now, I guess, you know what? Let's go into this because this is about the sovereign wealth funds and how much money they actually have. Because they have a lot of money, guys, to invest. Here we go.
But blue chip stocks and Western companies. The reason behind this shift to more prudent consumption? Well, that's all to do with one man's vision. Prince Mohammed bin Salman's 2030 vision, to be precise. Back in April 2016, as the prince was on his ascendancy to the throne, he took to the stage to launch Vision 2030, a sweeping set of reforms for the kingdom that has three core aims. Firstly, to build a vibrant society. Secondly, a thriving economy. And thirdly, to transform Saudi Arabia into an ambitious nation. It is this vision that provides the platform for Saudi Arabia's current global deal-makings. Though the key question to ask is what's motivated this vision of the future, currently sweeping across the Desert Kingdom? Studies suggest that this reform agenda is driven by three coinciding headwinds facing the Saudi economy. The end of a decade-long run in high oil prices, high population growth rates, and the very costly demands of generous state services and subsidies. Now, it will come as a surprise.
Or their takeover of the world.
The fate of the Saudi economy has been directly linked to the price of oil since the discovery of the black gold back in 1938. According to OPEC, Saudi Arabia possesses around 18% of the world's proven petroleum reserves, being the world's largest exporter. However, it is the sheer scale of the kingdom's dependency on the black gold that may startle you. The oil and gas sector accounts for a whopping 50% of the country's gross domestic product, and about 70% of export earnings overall. That's 70 cents in every dollar earned by the wealthy kingdom. Such oil wealth has provided a bounty for the kingdom's coffers for years. The share of the government's revenue derived from oil sales have averaged 80% over the years, with dependency at its greatest between 2010 and 2014, when it accounted for an unbelievable 90% of all government revenue. Such levels of dependency on only one source of revenue are inadvisable for a company, let alone a whole country, especially a commodity at the mercy of the markets, as this graph shows. It is the decline in the price of oil since 2014 which has created a big economic headache for the Saudis in the last 5 years. This decline in their most valuable export is largely to blame for the kingdom's burgeoning public deficits, which reached 17% in 2018 according to Forbes, and accounted for an eye-watering $100 billion in 2016 alone. And remember, this was all at a time when the global economy was flying high, with global GDP averaging 3.7% in 2018 according to the IMF. Falling government revenues have been made worse over the years by high population growth. The Saudi population has doubled since the 70s and grows at more than 2% per year. The private sector accounts for less than 50% of the country's GDP. When you add in a rapidly growing population and a high unemployment level of about 11%, with youth unemployment at about 30%, this creates a financial recipe for disaster. All these factors of falling oil revenues, high population growth, high unemployment, and a general reliance on the state to provide jobs makes the kingdom's 2030 vision even more compelling and urgent. Though...
Okay, so this is a savior for Saudi Arabia, but you have to understand with Agenda 2030, again, they are still considered a developing nation. We're developed. So Canada has to observe certain emission goals and all sorts of goals where the requirement for them isn't quite there. Not yet. Not until well later. like 2050, 2040. Their vision is, well, it's going to take them into the future, but again, it's not locked in as a requirement like it is with us here in Canada. Again, Harper signed us on to Agenda 2030, these Sustainable Development Goals, in 2015. Obama signed it in the United States, and it's on. Again, Biden isn't mentioning a darn thing about Agenda 2030. He can't right now, in fact, because again, there is, again, a lot of red states, red dominated, and they're not going to accept it. So in places like Texas, they're actually working through the universities called Texas 2050. So there's a variety of ways to get it done. And Biden, again, he's not naming it, but every policy he comes out with every day is reflective in, again, Agenda 2030. Now, you see, it's the energy of the plan that got me. It did. Again, the distancing, all of these things that we're dealing with, the changes to our culture that have been imposed, like social distancing, like mask wearing in public, had a certain energy to it. And that's what really got me on the trail. But I've really come to understand that, well, there's a new club in town, and the Saudis and even the Emiratis, they're in on it too. They're partnerships. And I think I found it in the Giving Pledge. Now, the Giving Pledge, again, is Bill Gates's vehicle. He gets all the credit, but Warren Buffett is the marketer. When you read a lot of their stories, it's him who got them in. So again, Warren Buffett is I believe very much the mastermind of all of this. Truly. Bill, his protege. And Bill's doing a great job. Of course, linking all of these global leaders. And the Saudis are very proud of their relationship with Bill Gates, Cascade Investments. They understand how his entities operate because they're largely doing the same thing. Now, the Giving Pledge, I don't know if you've seen it before, so let's go take a look quickly because it's interesting. The Giving Pledge is a commitment to philanthropy. A commitment by the world's wealthiest individuals and families to dedicate the majority of their wealth to giving back. Now, they say there's a range of causes. Now, there is flexibility that they can filter it into the Giving Pledge and then choose some of their own causes. But a lot of people aren't doing that. But what I'm seeing is some interesting things with this list. And there was the inclusion, of course, of Prince Alawid bin Talal bin Abdulaziz Al Saud. Big names. He has committed to the Giving Pledge. And more than 3 decades ago, when I founded Alawid Philanthropies, I made a commitment to help build a more peaceful, equitable, and sustainable world for generations to come. It is this same commitment that has driven me to take the Giving Pledge today. I am honored to be the first Arab Muslim to do so, and it is my sincere hope that other Arabs and Muslims will follow in giving a pledge. He's big into humanity. And I don't know how big he's into it, but I found another video where he talks about it. Where did I do with that one? Oh, there it is. I'm going to let you hear him at his press conference.
The word here is institutionalization of the process. That's what we're doing right now. The question in English was, first of all, is a real foundation capable and able to manage the huge wealth that you have? I told him that this is not quite a question, because it is very clear from the press releases that the foundation is the recipient of the funds that is really given and granted by me and by the board of trustees during my lifetime and after my death. So it is not an operation company entity; it only receives. It's just like the Bill and Melinda Gates entity. it receives the funds from Cascade and the selling of Microsoft shares, etc. So that's number one. Number two, the question was why to announce, why not to be everything in a secretive and in a manner not to be announced. I said no, that's not good at all, because we need to announce such things, and really the role model are really the big entities in the United States, such as the Bill and Melinda Gates entities, and the Buffett contribution to the Bill Gates entity also. So these matters have to be announced to really induce and incentivize. And
they have to be announced because they're alliances. These guys can't hold it under their hat. They want to announce this, and they're as much of this front as, well, everybody we always discuss, the same players. But, well, it was when I came across this the other night. I've been thinking a lot about how they actually filter the money. Now, a lot of these very wealthy billionaires, they have family foundations. So that's the first line. And then their family foundations are giving through to the Giving Pledge. But I think that a lot of them are now, okay, so pledged assets. Let's just talk about pledged assets. A pledged asset is a valuable possession that is transferred to a lender to secure a debt or loan. A pledged asset is a collateral held by a lender in return for lending funds. Pledged assets can reduce the down payment that is typically required for a loan, as well as reduces interest rate charged. Pledged assets can include cash, stocks, bond, and other equity and securities. So, is that money being used to finance from all of these billionaires? Because we're talking trillions of dollars through the Giving Pledge. But again, they only have to give a forward commitment, or they can give it monthly. And I've got him actually talking about how he's going to give that money monthly. Every year, rather than a lump sum at the end. Again, I think buying alliances. And again, you've got Bill Gates, he's got Cascade. That's his holding company. You've got Warren Buffett and Berkshire Hathaway. Then, of course, you've got Vanguard and Blackrock. And then, of course, got the Giving Pledge with a whole lot of pledged money in a big pot. And I imagine that's being utilized because I don't think they actually care about us or the world or humanity. They're using it to execute their ambitions. And that's the technology to take us into the fourth industrial revolution. That's the idea right now. Again, I need to understand more about financial and how this all works, but this is dirty and it's contrived, absolutely. Because again, this has never happened. Now, I just came across an article about Elon Musk, how Elon Musk's secretive foundation hands out his billions. So again, everybody's got these foundations. And again, they're a tax benefit to these people as well. They are. Interesting stuff. So in any case, I came across something interesting, and well, we're going to go into sovereign wealth funds and all that stuff later. Pledged loan. We'll go to that one tomorrow. Where is it? Okay. I came across a paper called The Role of Islamic Economics and Finance in Sustainable Development Goals. And we're going to talk about that one tomorrow because it's rather long. But then, again, a contribution of Islamic finance to the Agenda 2030 for Sustainable Development. Like, the interesting thing, I'm just going to go to the conclusion of this paper. Sustainable development goals revolve around human and societal well-being. They are in consonance with Islamic ethos and philosophy. We know that Maqasid al-Sharia emphasize on human well-being from spiritual, physiological, intellectual, and economic perspectives. In this paper, we discussed how Islamic values and institutions engender environmental ethics, which can help in influencing our attitudes towards sustainable development challenges. We also discuss the role of Islamic social finance and commercial finance in contributing towards achieving sustainable development goals, especially in Muslim majority countries. Islamic philosophy and worldview can renew our attitudes and outlook towards socio and economic progress, problems, and environmental challenges. Islamic social finance institutions like zakat and waqf can contribute towards scaling up efforts in commercially non-viable but socially vital projects and programs. There is much potential for Islamic finance to promote sustainable and economic development through such approaches as widening access to finance, including microfinance, financing infrastructure projects, and expanding the reach of takaful Islamic insurance. You see, the sustainable development goals fit into their cultural norms and Islam more than they fit into our Western democratic framework. This is why we're getting the and it's going to hit us the hardest because, again, our world is being reshaped. Now, in their society, well, it's a totalitarian, so you do what you're told. Things might change, but they're going to be minimal because in their Vision 2030 programs or plans for both the Emirates and Saudi, being a good Muslim is a cornerstone, and there's nothing really changing in that realm that I can see yet. Of course, I haven't dug in. Like, I'm not an expert here. I'm just reviewing plans, and I have been since last year when I started to see these synergies. And again, the fact that the sustainable development goals, well, that pool of people that started all this in 2012, and of course they didn't start it, but they were the original committee members for UN Sustainability Goals 2030. They were the handful of participants. And of course, every year now, there's a world government conference in Dubai. In the Giving Pledge, we've got a sheikh from UAE who's also in on it. And of course, the prince. So there's two now. And like what I'm seeing in this is alliances in the Giving Pledge. Again, still have a lot of work to do, but it's interesting we need to understand that this plan and these sustainable development goals and all of this is directed to us from abroad. Again, it wasn't homegrown. It wasn't made here. Our future has been dictated from abroad and by this oligopoly that is literally running the world and any and every company. Even the Saudis bought into Facebook. Now, I think they've divested from that, but again, everybody's in on it and through their investments. It's pretty scary stuff. I think, because again, it's giving them financial clout. And again, why these sustainable development goals have overshadowed all. They could have never gotten this into the corporations. They couldn't have enforced the mask unless the World Health Organization had us held hostage. Doesn't this all sound noble while being managed by the ultra wealthy? They appear concerned about the working class while hiding money from taxation under the banner of fake philanthropy. And that's it. We know this. They don't care about it's their version of humanity. They are literally tailoring us into their version. The biggest Ponzi scheme ever. I know. I was looking up Ponzi schemes the other night because, again, I'm not Miss Financial, but I'm looking at, again, I'm one of those people when I'm researching, I'm kind of energetic and I start to pull things. And I'm telling you, the Giving Pledge, Warren Buffett is wheeling in all the billionaires into that. They're utilizing that money. They are. And are they reinvesting it? Again, Apparently these billionaires, again, they're making so much money right now because, again, they're all invested with the Vanguards and the Blackrocks. They're carrying it. And the wealth that they're pledging, they haven't had to give it yet. It's crazy. In any case, I was really interested in the whole Islamic finance and how they're, again, working the sustainable development goals in. But one of the interesting things that we heard in there is that, again, a lot of their investments, and, even I see it with Vanguard and Blackrock, they've got some real, again, highly valued assets. But there's no beef behind it. Kind of like the company that has the Doug Ford's tracking. Again, I got to do that. I'll do that tomorrow. They've got all sorts of different entities associated with it, with that company. Yet it's pretty bare bones. It's apparently been around for 2 years, but it's like you look through it and it's flat. Again, building up companies to, again, they own the competition. They're invested. Apple, Microsoft, they just switch back and forth. So the competition, again, is not competition. Not anymore. Everybody's got their little place, and while they're competitors, the investors are the very same. The people love it, thinking the rich care about us, Tennille. Yes, they do. I don't know why they think that. Why do they think they give a shit? No beef, literally. There won't be any beef. We know that. Like, they're culling the industry. I've never seen anything like this. And it's going to roll to us, and it's not going to take long. Keep watching that plant protein section widen and widen in the grocery store. It's pretty crazy. And again, the opening of the door, these chemical foods to replace. Where's all the money supposed to be going in the giving pledge? I looked for that, but there's nothing really specific. They've got, again, a few billionaires have decided that they're going to give to this project, and they sort of run it through the giving pledge. But again, it doesn't encompass the wealth that they're putting in or, again, have any timeline. It's completely private. I think they're funneling it right through there. And again, making nothing but money with it. It's a scheme. There's a scheme there. I don't think the prince cares too much. He's got billions and billions and billions of dollars. Again, they seem to be part of a team. And again, when I keep running across that type of footage, I'm like, wow, they're in it up to their necks, all of them together. I started looking through the Saudi sovereign wealth funds, and of course, UAE, China, Russia. Of course, Russia's sovereign wealth fund has a stake, is Sputnik, the vaccine that they have. So, but again, the ownership in all of these vaccines, and then the corporations like the Apples and the Microsofts and every other corporation under the sun that is successful, all have to buy into the vaccine. This is how they're making it non-negotiable. It was kind of scary. Even last night, they were talking about the fact that vaccine passports could be, in use by, like it's looking like this is going to be summertime when they're going to start. I think by fall, you won't be flying again if you don't have it, and maybe not even crossing the border. I don't know, but it's not looking good, guys. It's rolling so fast. And again, we've got this literal brigade that's kind of acting like a political party. They are. Vanguardism, check it out. It'll blow you away. It blew me away. They're reinvesting all of their wealth into a transformation of technocracy out of the remaining democracies. Well, we would never, willingly go to totalitarian rule. So now all of these features for our safety are being installed in our society, which is the totalitarianism required to reach those sustainable development goals. Again, the fact is, we're utilizing all of these companies. We are somewhere along the line. And a lot of people, if they have investments, they're invested in these stocks that literally are keeping us locked down and keeping us hostage. And of course, the World Health Organization is running it all right now. Again, they disrupted democracy is what has happened here. And until that state of emergency or public health emergency is lifted, we're basically, I mean, we've got our hands cuffed. That's what's happening here. I think it's sad, guys, but understanding it more clearly is important. And the government's not talking about the sustainable goals, okay? Again, they're talking COVID, but I think we have to replace COVID with sustainable goals, because that's actually what COVID is. It's the framework of the sustainable goals. It was the disruption required to do this. Because again, we wouldn't have done it willingly. And we wouldn't be, again, as the taxes come down and the circular economy and all of these new concepts get wrung out to us, it's going to take a toll on people who lose their jobs due to roboticization. And again, I talked about this several times, 57% of jobs in 10 years are expected to be gone in Germany. Okay, these are stats and studies. I'm going to find that video again and put it in the comments. And I'm going to put all my reference materials again in the comments so you can go through and take a look. Because, again, what we've been missing is the cartel, the Agenda 2030 cartel. And it's not just Bill, it's governments invested. And again, when Chinese sovereign wealth funds and Saudi foreign wealth funds are being, again, infused in our economy, their interests, of course, are supported by this Agenda 2030 framework, which is interesting because it's like it's being infused so that they can work with us. Bloomberg wrote an article about being prepared to live in a continuous state of pandemic. Sounds like an ongoing state of emergency without evidence the emergency exists. For sure, Tanil. That's absolutely it. Again, at the beginning, even last year, I was talking about how when fascism came into into Germany, it was always the rules changing, the rug being pulled under your feet all the time, shifting. You never knew if you were coming or going. So you're always on high alert, high cortisol, high stress, right? Again, to make you malleable so you can mess with your head. And again, this is the psychology, I believe, behind this right now, for sure. Again, to weaken us, make us go for that. Because we're tired. One Health, EcoHealth, Alliance, and Biosecurity. And this is what they're coming down to. You know, last year around this time too, I was talking about, the fact that we're being maneuvered into being managed like animals. Okay. So, when the animals are going into the feedlot, they're all getting like one by one, boom, 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 boom. A matter of course, it doesn't matter what the health of the animal is. And this is what they want for us. Boom, 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 boom. Oh, a weak one. You're gone. Because this is about culling of the weak. And I found that in some of these Islamic documents, which I found interesting. Again, we're going to talk about that. We'll get on to that tomorrow. Again, I want to talk more about the goals of the sustainability plan and relate it to, again, some of the things I'm finding. The financial is everything though right now, because it's financing this mess, and it explains all of those. Well, anyone who in 2018 and 19, there were an unbelievable number of resignations and shifts to corporations. And again, anyone who wasn't going to play ball with this, bye-bye. And they got rid of them. They did. They made sure everybody who was in position was hungry and would go ahead with the agenda. And they've done it. Again, the thing is, you know, the reason I've never I don't work for corporations, like I've had my own, but I don't work for them because they can't turn on a dime. Everybody knows that. They can't just go, boom, we're going to make these shifts. Not even in 2 months. This was well planned, my friends. Absolutely. There is no way these people can shift on a dime. Can't be done. So this consortium of companies was prepared in advance to all of it, to the disruptions. They were, absolutely. Not good after a year of constant chaos. I hope you're doing well despite the circumstances. Oh, for sure. You know what? Every day I absolutely enjoy getting up and learning about what's happening to us. I need to understand it. I'm one of those people. I can't have it hanging in the back of my head. I'll wake up and go, oh my God, I came up with an idea, and I'll write it down. Guys, well, I hope that maybe I helped you understand this a little bit better tonight. Again, the sustainable goals. This is our future. I mean, again, this is the framework that is we're being locked down to it and its goals. And again, this agreement, UN Agenda 2030, cannot exist in a democracy. It cannot, not by its very nature. And you know, you just don't know how to end it, do you? I noticed a lot of CEO resignations, and that was bewildered by what was promoting that. Yes, absolutely. And I believe this was it. They were making sure they had everybody in place that they needed. And the ones that, again, were going to be a problem, they were on their way. And it helps when, you know, you've got the mandate from Blackrock. Here's the mandate to all our assets. This is what we expect from you. This is the line you will follow, or you won't do business with us. And they made it very clear. They didn't need government to do it. And again, that's how the corporations are superseding our democracy right now. Because again, if the government said tomorrow, we don't need masks, it doesn't matter. The corporations are keeping it in. It's in their policy, and it's done. And we're seeing that, of course, in Florida. We see that in Texas. Again, if there is a Walmart, for example, they're working on Walmart International. They'll convince us that this is a more equitable form of democracy, even though it won't resemble a democracy at all. Absolutely. Again, this is the social credit, the twist into the screws. They're going to manipulate and maneuver the model to actually resemble more like the China model, not our former democracy. Everything their way. And again, we're just a number. If you thought you were just a number before, oh my God, the future is like pretty disastrous on that frontier, because again, it's just boom, 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 boom. And again, all in the technology. Oh, you can't go to work. You have to come in for your shot. Oh, looks like you're a little agitated there, Martine. Maybe you need a tranquilizer. You know, this kind of thing. This is what it's going to be like. And of course, people are going to wire in for the convenience of having their vital signs in the morning. And again, it's just a trap. It is a trap, and it is literally saying goodbye to our freedom forever. And the worst part is so many don't even recognize it. They don't get it. We're never getting out. I used to think the only way to deal with this is to part company with the United Nations. But after running No Mask Sask, I can tell you, and knowing that the unions own the protests, again, stakeholders in all of this happening. They are stakeholders. It's more, I don't know how we would even part company with the United Nations. I think it would be a war. Because the way they came in to defeat anything resembling that was pretty scary for me. And that's why all these alternative political parties are just sitting back doing nothing. The PPC, what's he doing? Maxime Bernier? Diddly squat as usual. He does a little thing on Facebook like every couple of days. And there's nothing, no action. Again, not the time to be building a political party like, a year before the election. Or is it two? I don't know. I see the Buffalo Party here of Saskatchewan. You don't see hide nor hair. They had nothing to say about the mask. They had nothing to say in this landscape. And it doesn't matter that they're not in power or in a position. They are still a presence. And those people are just sitting back. I don't see it. Very few. So it's a letdown for sure. The technology is free, but you are the commodity, and that's absolutely correct. It is. They talk about, again, I've read into 2030 quite a bit, and again, this, no owning anything ever again. Everything will be for rent. Again, padding these guys' pockets. And of course, we're financing all that technology. And then foreign governments involved. It's insane. Again, it was a level we've never had to contend with this before. And our government's certainly not a lot, telling us that this is what's happening. But unfortunately, these nations that do not think our way are economically invading. And they're here. I mean, they bought in, the Saudis bought into, I guess, a Saskatchewan wheat pool. Well, first Harper wanted to get rid of the Canadian Wheat Board, and then the Saudis had an investment with another company that became Viterra, and that's just down the street from me. And one day I was sitting down by the bus there, and I had it looked like a guy, like a guard, standing at the front of the entrance, or just on the side of the building. It's crazy. In any case, guys, that's a lot to handle there, but I am going to, again, put the links to all of the pieces I had in here. And tomorrow we're going to get into, again, the 17 goals. It's time to hit the books because we need to understand how that's working. And then, of course, what I'm seeing in Islamic economics in relation to these sustainable goals. And I think I'm learning. So by doing these, you're helping me because that's kind of the boring stuff, doing all these comparisons, but it's got to be done. The Chinese government bought a chunk of land close to me under the promise of building some kind of super mall that never happened. In Quebec, the Chinese were able to invest, I think they had to invest $1.2 or $1.5 million. And the Quebec government was able to hold on to 800,000 of it for 5 years. So, again, welcoming this big money into Canada. And what was happening is they were supposed to also live in Quebec, but they didn't like it there. They all went to Vancouver. So it was actually blowing the legitimacy of the plan. And again, Chinese government involved. A lot of people come to Saskatchewan, and I know this from Airbnb. A lot of immigrants from China are arriving here, but they don't stay here. I had many that wanted to use my address. so that they could get all their papers and they wouldn't have to stay and they could get their butts over to Vancouver, where they like it better. They don't like it here so much. They got a lot of money. And again, buying it, as you heard, with the Saudis, buying it while it's cheap. Like they knew it was going to be their push. Bin Salman, he knew. Of course he knew. They're the Agenda 2030 cartel. And they did. And they were ready for the opportunity. And they're definitely working with Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, and of course the Vanguard group, Blackrock, and the rest of them. Any case, guys, have a wonderful night. Thanks for joining in. And again, we'll get into some of the drier stuff tomorrow. I'll try to jazz it up. Because again, we need to understand what's happening and why, so we can look ahead. Have a great night.